I was caught cheating on my perfect husband. I regret it all. Hi, my name is Valerie. I'm not proud of my story. In fact, I carry the shame of it every single day, but I'm not that same woman anymore. I've changed, though sometimes it feels like I changed too late. It's been almost 7 years since I cheated on my ex-husband, and I still think about him every day. Not in a romantic way, but more like how a person thinks about a beautiful thing they broke and can never fix. He was a good man. Truly, he was the kind of man most women say they want. Loyal, gentle, patient, and hardworking. He wasn't flashy or arrogant. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have wandering eyes. He came home every day after work, kissed me on the forehead, and asked how my day was. I used to think that was boring. I used to think that I needed excitement, passion, and adventure. Looking back now, I see that what I really needed was maturity. We got married young. I was 26 and he was 29. We dated for about 3 years before he proposed. Everything seemed perfect at first. We had a small wedding, just close family and friends. He was so nervous when he said his vows, but his hands didn't shake when he held mine. He meant every word. I remember crying that day, but not because I was scared. I was happy. I truly believed we'd grow old together. And for the first 2 years, I honestly thought we would. Then, slowly, something in me started to change. It wasn't because he did anything wrong. If anything, it was because he was too good. I started to crave attention from others, to feel wanted in a different way. My friends were single and always going out, always talking about the men hitting on them, and I started to feel like I was missing out on something. I told myself it was harmless when I flirted a little at work. I told myself it didn't mean anything, but those were lies. Small ones at first, the kind that grow roots and turn into something ugly. The man I cheated with was a coworker. He was charming in that fake kind of way, confident, funny, smooth with his words. I won't make excuses. I was stupid. I fell for flattery and attention that meant nothing. He made me feel seen, but not in the way my husband did. My husband saw me, the real me, my flaws, my moods, my bad hair days, and still loved me. This other man just told me what I wanted to hear, and I ate it up. It started with harmless lunches, then it turned into after-work drinks. Then one night, when my husband was working late, I did the unthinkable. I cheated. I wish I could tell you that I stopped myself. That guilt pulled me back before it was too late. But no, I crossed that line willingly. I remember sitting in my car afterward, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror, and I couldn't even recognize the woman looking back at me. I hated myself in that moment. I wanted to rewind time, to unsay every lie, to unmake every decision that led to that point. I told myself I would never do it again, and I didn't, but the damage was already done. I tried to act normal, but guilt has a way of eating you alive from the inside. I'd jump every time my phone buzzed. I couldn't sleep next to him without feeling dirty. Yet, somehow, he didn't suspect a thing. He was just himself, kind, loving, still asking if I wanted tea before bed, still putting gas in my car, still bringing me flowers on Fridays. And every kind gesture felt like a knife twisting deeper. Then came the day I got caught, and it was purely accidental, almost like the universe decided it had enough of my lies. My husband wasn't snooping or suspicious. He trusted me completely. I had left my phone charging on the nightstand and went to take a shower. The man I cheated with sent a message, something short and stupid like, "I missed that night." My husband saw it. When I came out of the shower, the look on his face said it all. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just looked broken, like something inside him had died. I panicked. I started crying, begging, trying to explain, but there was no explaining it. He didn't want to hear anything I had to say. He just asked one question. Why? I had no answer. I said I didn't know, which was the truth. I truly didn't know why I risked everything for nothing. He walked out that night, and I didn't hear from him for a week. That week was the longest, darkest time of my life. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I'd sit by the window waiting for him to come home, hoping he'd call or text, but he didn't. When he finally did reach out, it wasn't to talk. It was to tell me he was done. He said he needed space and that he'd be in touch when he figured out his next steps. I tried everything, called his mom, his sister, even his best friend. Nobody would tell me where he was. His family, who once treated me like one of their own, suddenly turned cold. His sister told me, "You broke him, Valerie. You broke my brother." Hearing that still makes my chest tighten. My own family didn't know what to say. My mom was disappointed but tried to comfort me. My dad, though, he wouldn't even look at me for weeks. He told me that my husband was the kind of man he'd prayed I'd find, and I threw it away. I didn't need to hear that. I already knew. Eventually, I was served. That was how I found out he had officially filed for divorce. No warning, no phone call, just a knock at the door and a stranger handing me papers. My hands were shaking so bad that I dropped them on the floor. I sat there crying, reading every line, realizing that this was it. My marriage was over. After the divorce process started, things got even worse. His family completely cut me off. His mom, who used to call me her daughter, blocked my number. His friends deleted me on social media. I was like a ghost, completely erased. I deserved it. I know that now, but at the time, it felt unbearable. I tried to apologize in every way I could. Letters, voicemails, emails. He never responded to a single one. He ghosted me completely. And that silence was the worst punishment imaginable. When I finally saw him again, it was in court. I'll never forget that day. The room was small, quiet, and the air felt heavy. The moment I saw him, my heart dropped. He looked different. Not angry, not sad, just empty. He wore a dark blue suit, and even from across the room, I could smell his cologne, the same one he always wore when we went on dates. That scent hit me like a wave. I broke down crying right there, trying to keep it quiet. The judge even asked if I needed a moment, but I just shook my head. I didn't want to delay the inevitable. He didn't look at me once. Not when I spoke, not when I cried, not even when the divorce was finalized. It was like I didn't exist to him. I wanted to scream, to tell him that I still loved him, that I'd do anything to make things right. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't matter. Some wounds don't heal, and I had caused his. After the divorce, I tried to move on. I went back to school, focused on work, tried to find myself. But the truth is, I haven't found anything worth finding. Every relationship since then has been shallow or short-lived. I meet men who seem interested at first, but the moment I bring up wanting something serious, marriage, commitment, building a life, they pull away. It's like men today are allergic to marriage, or maybe I'm just not the kind of woman men want to marry anymore. Maybe they can sense my past even before I say it. I want to be a mother so badly. I thought I'd have children by now, that I'd be packing lunches and planning birthdays. Instead, I'm paying rent, hauling groceries alone, and trying to fix things in my apartment by myself. Doing everything on my own has made me realize how much I took for granted. When I was married, my husband used to handle the car, the bills, the repairs. Now, having to do all that myself has worn me down. I can feel it. It's taking a toll on my femininity. I used to feel soft and light. Now I feel hardened, tired. Some nights I just sit in bed thinking about how I traded comfort and love for temporary excitement that meant nothing. People say time heals, but that's not always true. Time just teaches you how to live with the pain. I still have days when I wake up and instinctively reach for the other side of the bed. It's empty, of course. I remind myself that it's my fault, and I accept that. I just wish I could have one conversation with him, not to beg for him back, but to tell him that I understand now, that I know what I destroyed, that I would give anything to undo it. I don't know if he's married again. I've seen glimpses of him on social media, mutual friends posting pictures of events he's at, but I never comment, never reach out. He looks happy, and that's what matters. But seeing him smile in those photos always stings a little. It's a reminder that someone else gets to love him the way I should have. After the divorce, I tried to contact him one last time. I waited a few months, hoping maybe he'd soften. I sent him a message just saying I was sorry, that I hoped he was doing okay. He never replied. Then I saw he blocked me. That was when it hit me. He didn't just move on. He erased me completely. And maybe that's what he had to do to heal. But for me, that silence is eternal. I think about how easily I could have had the life I wanted if I had just appreciated what I had. A home, a loving husband, stability, someone who had my back no matter what. Now I work, pay bills, and try to smile through the loneliness. I go on dates, but they're not the same. Men don't court women anymore, at least not the way he did. They don't open doors, they don't ask about your day. It's all texting and hanging out. I miss the effort, the old-fashioned kind of love that I once had and let slip through my fingers. I'm not writing this to get attention. I just needed to say it out loud, to own it, to admit that I ruined my own life. If there are any women listening who think the grass is greener, please believe me, it's not. The excitement fades, the guilt stays, and when it's all over, you'll look back and realize you traded gold for dust. I know this email is long, but it's been sitting in my chest for years. I've carried this story like a weight, and maybe sharing it will help me let go of some of it. I'll never forget that morning. I woke up early, though I barely slept the night before. My stomach was in knots, and my eyes were swollen from crying. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at the outfit I laid out the night before, a simple black dress. The same one I used to wear on our anniversary dinners. I didn't mean to choose it out of nostalgia. It was just what I had that looked appropriate for court. But when I realized what it was, I broke down again. It felt symbolic, like I was burying something that once was beautiful. I drove there alone. The silence in my car was unbearable, so I put on the radio. Every song sounded like a cruel reminder of the life I destroyed. When I pulled into the courthouse parking lot, I just sat there for a few minutes, gripping the steering wheel, trying to steady my breathing. I kept hoping I'd wake up and this would all be a nightmare, that he'd text me saying, "Let's talk, I don't want this," and I'd run to him and promise I'd never hurt him again. But that text never came. When I walked into the courthouse, my knees felt weak. I could smell the faint mix of disinfectant and old wood, that courthouse smell that's both sterile and heavy. The hallways were quiet except for the sound of people's footsteps and the low murmur of lawyers talking. I checked in with the clerk and sat down on one of those hard benches outside the courtroom. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I looked around and saw couples whispering, others avoiding eye contact. I wondered if anyone else there had done what I did, if anyone else had destroyed their own marriage like I had. And then I saw him. My ex-husband walked in wearing a dark blue suit, the same one he'd worn to our friend's wedding years ago. He looked calm, too calm. He didn't glance around, didn't fidget, just handed his papers to his lawyer and sat down across the room from me. I tried to catch his eye, but he never looked my way. I can't describe the feeling. It was like standing in front of a mirror and realizing you no longer recognize the reflection. He looked the same, but different. Older, maybe stronger. His shoulders were squared, his jaw set. The man I betrayed had turned into someone I couldn't reach anymore. I remember the faint smell of his cologne drifting across the room, that same scent I used to love. I always told him it reminded me of clean laundry and safety, and there it was again, mixed with the courtroom air, making me want to fall apart. I kept my eyes down, pretending to read through my papers, but my vision was blurry from holding back tears. When the judge came in, everything moved faster than I expected. Legal terms, signatures, confirmations, it all felt mechanical. My lawyer whispered for me to sign here, initial there. I did what I was told, but my mind wasn't in the room. I was replaying every memory, our first kiss, our wedding day, the time we danced in the living room for no reason. The judge's voice brought me back when he said, "Divorce is granted." That's when it hit me like a punch to the chest. 2 years of marriage ended in 2 words. I heard the shuffle of papers, chairs moving, footsteps leaving. I didn't move right away. I just sat there frozen, staring at the table. When I finally stood up, I caught a glimpse of him walking out with his lawyer. I whispered his name, not loud enough for anyone else to hear, but loud enough for me. He didn't stop. He didn't turn around. He just kept walking. In that moment, watching him leave the room without even glancing back, that was when I knew it was truly over. I went home and collapsed on the couch. The house felt emptier than ever. His things were already gone, his tools, his clothes, even his coffee mug. The silence was deafening. I cried until I couldn't anymore. I remember looking at our wedding photo, the one I hadn't taken down yet, and just whispering, "I'm sorry," over and over. That became a ritual for me for months, saying sorry to a picture because the real man would never listen. The days that followed were a blur. I had to deal with dividing property, paperwork, bank accounts, all the practical stuff that feels so trivial when your heart is shattered. I avoided social media completely because I couldn't stand to see people's happy posts or pictures of couples. Every reminder of love made me feel sick with regret. Eventually, I had to move out of the apartment we shared. Packing was torture. Every drawer, every shelf had pieces of our life. I found notes he'd written me, small things like "Have a great day, love you." I found the card he gave me on our first anniversary. I sat on the floor surrounded by memories, crying into an old sweatshirt that still smelled like him. That was the lowest point. It felt like I was packing up a ghost. I stayed with my sister for a few months after that. She tried to be supportive, but I could tell she didn't fully understand. She kept saying, "You're young, you'll find someone else." But I didn't want someone else. I wanted him. I wanted my husband back. The man I took for granted, the man who gave me everything and asked for so little in return. I tried writing him letters. I poured my heart out in pages and pages, confessing everything, apologizing again, explaining how lost I'd been. I never sent them. I knew they'd probably end up in the trash or never even opened, so instead, I kept them in a box. I still have that box. Sometimes I reread them when I'm having a bad night, just to remind myself how far I've fallen and why I'll never make that mistake again. About 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I saw him again. It was completely unexpected. I was at a grocery store one afternoon, and there he was in the same aisle, looking at cereal. For a second, my heart stopped. He hadn't seen me yet, and I debated turning around and leaving. But something in me wanted to face him, to see how he was doing. When he finally looked up, his eyes landed on mine. Time froze. He didn't smile. He didn't frown either. He just looked indifferent, like he was looking through me, not at me. I managed a weak high, but he just nodded and went back to what he was doing. I wanted to say more, to ask how he was, to tell him I missed him, but the words wouldn't come. I could feel my throat tightening. I left my cart and walked out before I broke down in public. I cried the whole drive home. That was the last time I saw him in person. Not long after that, I tried reaching out through a mutual friend. I asked her to just tell him I was sorry and that I'd changed. She said she would, but later told me he didn't want to hear from me. He told her that chapter of his life was closed. Hearing that broke me all over again, but I respected it. I stopped trying to contact him after that. I realized that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone you hurt is to stay away and let them heal in peace. The years since then have been humbling, to say the least. I've dated a few men, but none of those relationships lasted long. Either they weren't ready for commitment, or they sensed I was too guarded. I can't blame them. When you've lost a love like that, it changes how you see everything. It's hard to fully open up again because you know what it's like to destroy something precious with your own hands. I used to think being single was empowering. That was before I understood what loneliness really feels like. It's the small moments that hurt the most. Eating dinner alone, coming home to silence, fixing a leaky faucet with no one there to help. I remember once struggling to carry a new TV up the stairs, and I broke down crying halfway up because it hit me how much I missed having a man who would have done it for me without me asking. People talk about strong, independent women like it's this badge of honor, but they never talk about how exhausting it can be. I don't want to be both the man and the woman in my life. I want to rest in my femininity again, to feel soft and loved and protected. But those things feel so far away now. Sometimes I wonder if I even deserve them anymore. A few years after the divorce, I heard through the grapevine that he'd started dating someone new. Then later, I saw on social media that he got engaged. The photo was of him and a woman standing by a lake, both smiling. She looked kind, the kind of woman who probably appreciates him the way I should have. I stared at that photo for a long time, tears streaming down my face. I wasn't jealous exactly. I was just mourning. Mourning the life that could have been mine if I hadn't been so blind. I didn't attend the wedding, obviously, but a mutual friend posted a picture. He looked genuinely happy, peaceful. That brought me some comfort. Knowing he found someone who could give him the love and loyalty he always deserved made it a little easier to forgive myself, even though I'll never fully stop regretting it. There were moments when I thought about reaching out to congratulate him, but I stopped myself every time. He's moved on, and I have no right to insert myself into his happiness, so I just quietly prayed that she'd never hurt him, that she'd protect his heart in all the ways I failed to. In the years since, I've had to rebuild my life piece by piece. It hasn't been easy. I've had financial struggles, emotional breakdowns, periods where I didn't think I'd ever recover. But each hardship reminded me of what I once had. Stability, security, partnership. Things I foolishly took for granted. Now when I see couples holding hands or hear someone talk about their husband, I smile on the outside, but inside, there's a pang of sadness. Not bitterness, just regret. I know people can change, but some mistakes leave scars that never fade completely. I've learned so much about myself since then. I've learned that love isn't about excitement or butterflies. It's about consistency, patience, and kindness. I've learned that attention from others means nothing compared to the quiet loyalty of one person who truly loves you. And I've learned that the choices you make in a moment of weakness can alter the entire course of your life. I sometimes write in a journal about him, not in a creepy or obsessive way, but more as a way to keep myself grounded, to remind myself of the woman I never want to be again. I write about the lessons, the pain, the clarity that came too late. It's strange how hitting rock bottom can make you appreciate the simplest things. A text that says, "Get home safe." Someone remembering your coffee order, a hand on your back when you're stressed. Those small acts of love used to mean everything, and I didn't see it until it was gone. I'm 35 now. I thought by this age I'd have kids, a house, maybe a golden retriever and a husband who adored me. Instead, I have an apartment full of quiet and memories that play like old movies in my head. I still hope one day I'll meet someone who can love me despite my past. Someone who will see the woman I've become, not just the mistakes I've made. But I also know that even if I do, I'll never love anyone quite like I loved him. There's always a first, and he was mine. Sometimes when I drive by the part of town where we used to live, I catch myself slowing down near our old street. I'll look at the house and imagine him inside with his new wife, laughing, maybe cooking dinner. I smile because even though it hurts, it's also beautiful to know that he's okay. He made it out of the pain I caused and found happiness again. That's all I could ever ask for. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that love isn't just about finding the right person. It's about being the right person. I wasn't that for him, but maybe someday I'll be that for someone else. When my marriage ended, I swore I'd never date again. I told myself I didn't deserve to. For months, maybe even a full year, I stayed completely alone. I focused on work, on keeping myself busy, on trying to rebuild what I'd destroyed. I thought if I just stayed quiet and humble, life would forgive me somehow. But that's not how healing works. Eventually, the loneliness creeps in. No matter how much you try to ignore it, you start to miss hearing someone's voice before bed. You miss good morning texts, someone asking if you've eaten, someone caring whether you made it home safe. I didn't realize how much I missed companionship until one night I came home from work, exhausted, and instinctively said, "I'm home." Of course, no one answered. That silence broke me. I sat on the floor and cried until I fell asleep there. The next morning, I decided maybe it was time to try again, to at least open myself up to the idea of love, even if I didn't believe I deserved it. So, like most people these days, I downloaded dating apps. I didn't know where else to start. I made a profile, nothing flashy, just a few pictures and a simple bio. I was honest about being divorced, but didn't mention why. I wasn't ready to tell that part of my story. Within hours, I had messages, compliments, small talk, emojis. It all felt so shallow. Everyone seemed to be talking to everyone. It wasn't like before, when people actually took time to get to know each other. Now, it's all about swiping and matching, short bursts of attention, and then disappearing. The first man I went out with after my divorce was named David. He was nice, soft-spoken, and had kind eyes. We met for coffee, and I was shaking the whole time. I hadn't been on a date in years, and the guilt followed me like a shadow. I remember sitting there thinking, you shouldn't be here. You had your chance. He talked about his work, his hobbies, his dog, and I tried to listen, but my mind kept drifting back to my ex-husband, how different he was, how secure I felt with him. Every time David smiled, I saw flashes of my ex's face. I smiled back, but inside, it felt wrong. After the date, David texted me saying he had a great time and wanted to see me again. I froze. Part of me wanted to say yes, to feel wanted again, but another part of me panicked. I didn't feel ready. I ghosted him after that. I know how that feels, and it makes me sick to think I did it to someone else, but the guilt was too heavy. I wasn't dating with a clean heart. I was dating out of loneliness. Months went by before I tried again. This time I met a man named Ryan. He was confident, a little older, divorced too. We clicked easily at first because we both knew what it was like to have loved and lost. We'd talk late into the night about everything: work, family, regrets. I never told him exactly why my marriage ended, but I hinted at mistakes I made. He didn't push. That made me comfortable with him. We dated for a few months, and for a while, I almost felt normal again. But guilt has a way of poisoning good things before they can grow. One night, Ryan told me he was starting to fall for me, and instead of being happy, I froze up completely. I couldn't even look him in the eye. The next day, I told him we should take a break. He didn't understand. I didn't either. The truth is, I was scared. Scared of hurting someone again. Scared of being vulnerable. Scared that if he knew the truth about my past, he'd walk away in disgust. He texted me a few times after that, asking if I was okay, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. It wasn't fair to him. He deserved someone whole, not someone still haunted by her own reflection. Over the years, I've met a few men here and there, some from work, some through friends. But something about dating now feels so different, almost transactional. There's no real effort anymore. People want instant connection without putting in the work. It's all surface level, selfies, quick texts, casual hookups disguised as getting to know each other. I can't do that. Maybe it's because I've seen what real love used to look like. Steady, calm, loyal. And once you've seen that, the chaos of modern dating feels empty. Every time I've met someone decent, things start out great. But the moment I bring up commitment, the tone shifts. Suddenly, they're not ready for anything serious. I've heard that phrase so many times, it's like a bad song stuck in my head. And every time, it chips away at the hope I try to rebuild. I've even tried to be completely honest with one man about my past. His name was Eric. We were seeing each other for about 3 months when I decided he deserved to know. We were sitting in his living room one night and I told him that I'd been married before and that I was the reason it ended. I told him I cheated, that I was ashamed, that I'd spent years trying to become a better person. He didn't say much at first, he just nodded. But the next few weeks, things changed. He became distant, stopped calling as often. Eventually, he said he didn't think he could trust someone with that kind of past. That crushed me, but I understood. I can't blame him for not wanting to risk it. People want clean slates, and I'm not one. I'm a story with a scar that can't be erased. After that, I stopped sharing that part of my past. I built walls around it. I became what I guess you'd call cautiously open, willing to date but never letting anyone close enough to really know me. That kind of emotional distance is lonely, though. It's like sitting behind a glass wall, watching love happen for other people but never stepping close enough to touch it. There's also this fear I carry, fear of karma. Fear that if I ever find someone new and fall in love, they'll do to me what I did to my ex. That they'll cheat, or lie, or betray me, and I'll finally understand the pain I caused him on the other side. That thought alone has stopped me from fully committing to anyone. It's like waiting for punishment that never comes, but always feels close. Modern dating doesn't help. Everyone seems to have a backup plan now. People don't invest the way they used to. If something feels off, they just swipe for someone new. No one fights for love anymore. No one tries to fix things. Everything is disposable. People, relationships, even emotions. I see it everywhere. I've had men tell me straight up they're not looking for anything serious, but still want all the perks of being in a relationship. I used to think I could handle that, but every time I ended up feeling emptier than before. What's worse is how many people think marriage is outdated now. I bring it up sometimes and they look at me like I've said something strange. One man even laughed and said, "Marriage is just a legal trap." That broke my heart a little. Not because I disagreed, maybe he's right in some ways, but because I used to believe so deeply in it. I ruined it, yes, but I still believe in it. I believe in the beauty of two people choosing each other every day. But when I talk about wanting that again, wanting to build something lasting, men pull away. It's like mentioning marriage flips a switch. They either ghost me or tell me I'm moving too fast. Even if we've been seeing each other for months, it's exhausting. Sometimes I think men today just don't trust women anymore. And honestly, I can't even blame them. Women like me contributed to that. I know that might sound harsh, but it's true. When I cheated, I didn't just break my husband's heart. I broke something in myself, and maybe in the way he saw women. I made it harder for the next woman who came after me. That's a guilt I'll carry forever. There have been nights I've sat in my apartment scrolling through social media, seeing engagement posts, baby announcements, family vacations, and I wonder if I'll ever have that. I want to be a mom so badly it physically hurts sometimes, but I also know that no good man is going to choose me for that role until I prove, in my actions and my heart, that I've truly changed. I've tried to do that in small ways. I volunteer now. I mentor young women at work, and I talk to them about integrity, about valuing what they have before it's gone. I tell them not to make the mistakes I made, that freedom and excitement mean nothing if it costs you your peace. Still, the loneliness hits hard, especially on holidays. I remember last Christmas sitting alone, decorating a small tree in my apartment, drinking wine by myself, and just staring at the lights. I imagined what it would have been like if my ex-husband and I had stayed together. Maybe we'd have kids. Maybe we'd be watching a movie in matching pajamas. Instead, it was just me and the quiet. I thought about texting him to wish him a Merry Christmas, but I didn't. I'm sure he was with his wife and family, and I refused to disturb that. He deserves peace. Sometimes people tell me I should forgive myself, but that's easier said than done. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It just makes it bearable. And when I try to date, that past always finds a way to follow me. It's like an invisible mark that never fades. Even when things seem good, there's always a voice in my head saying, "You don't deserve happiness." Maybe that's why I attract men who aren't ready to commit, because deep down, I don't believe I deserve someone who will. Maybe I subconsciously pick people who will leave so I don't have to face being truly loved again. It's a vicious cycle, and I'm still trying to break it. I've learned that modern relationships lack patience. Everyone wants instant gratification. No one builds slowly anymore. My marriage taught me that love isn't fireworks every day. It's quiet. It's simple. It's doing the right thing even when it's boring. But most people today mistake peace for dullness. I used to do the same, and now I'm paying the price. I've gone on maybe 15 dates in the last few years. Some ended after one dinner, some lasted a few months. None turned into something real. And every time it ends, I feel that same emptiness return. The difference is now I don't blame them. I look inward. I ask myself what I'm doing wrong, what fear I let win this time. There's one man, though, who still lingers in my thoughts. His name was Andre. We dated for almost a year. He was kind, steady, the first man who made me believe I might actually get a second chance. He knew about my past, and instead of judging me, he said, "People make mistakes, Val. What matters is who you are now." For months, I thought maybe this was it. Maybe life was giving me a chance to rewrite my story, but then I ruined it. Not with cheating this time, but with fear. Every time he'd get close, I'd push him away. I'd pick fights, accuse him of pulling back, when in reality, it was me creating distance. Eventually, he said he couldn't keep trying to love someone who didn't believe she deserved love. That hit me like a train. He was right. I didn't. After he left, I sat in my car outside his apartment and cried until the sun came up. I felt like I had lost my last chance at something real. But maybe that's not true. Maybe healing just takes longer for some of us. Maybe I'm still learning how to love again without fear or guilt weighing me down. Dating after losing everything teaches you how fragile hope is. It also teaches you how much people have changed, how the world has changed. No one courts anymore. No one writes love letters. No one plans dates. Everything's about convenience, but love isn't convenient. It's commitment, effort, sacrifice. It's showing up even when it's hard. And I think people today are scared of hard work when it comes to love. Sometimes I worry I'll grow old alone. Other times I tell myself maybe that's what I need. to live with the consequences of my choices. But then I'll see a couple holding hands at the park and I'll feel that ache again. I still believe in love, even after everything. Maybe that's what keeps me going, the belief that redemption isn't impossible, even for someone like me. If I ever do find love again, I know I'll cherish it differently. I'll guard it, nurture it, protect it from temptation and selfishness. I'll never take it for granted, because once you've seen what your own betrayal can destroy, you understand that real love is sacred. I guess that's what this email is about. Not just dating or loneliness, but the realization that sometimes regret becomes your teacher. And if you listen closely enough, it can turn you into a better person, even if you never get a second chance. Thank you again, True Story, for reading my words. I know most of your audience are men who've been hurt by women like me. I don't expect forgiveness or understanding. I just hope that maybe hearing from someone on the other side reminds them that not every cheater stays the same. Some of us wake up. Some of us pay our dues every single day.